welcome back to the live stream. I am so happy to say, don't you get started. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm so happy and so excited to be back with you guys. I feel like it's been like a year, to be honest with you, even though we just haven't streamed for like 2 weeks. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We're going to get into all of it on the show today. But I'm so glad all of you guys are here for a fun, highly requested Friday afternoon stream featuring this tall drink of water, my husband, ladies and gentlemen. Whoop, whoop. We are answering some of your guys' questions about married life because we're a month in, which is super fun, our wedding, our honeymoon, and just talking about what this exciting new adventure and season of life has been like for us. I know everybody's been asking me in like all of my Instagram comments and my DMs and everything. So this has been a long time coming, and we're so glad that you guys are here to be a part of this journey with us. Before I have Brock say something, I will just address part of the reason that we've had less content coming out over the last couple of weeks, as you guys know, is I've had some health issues. We still don't really have answers for what all of that looks like, and I'm undergoing lots and lots of tests right now to figure out what my diagnosis is, but your continued prayers for my health and healing are very, very appreciated, and we will be back to more regular live streams very soon. In the meantime, I have like the fatigue of an entire army or every Olympic marathon runner, so I just feel like I could sleep for like 20 hours at a time, which makes going live really hard. So we're back today, which is great, but we will be more consistent as soon as I have a good diagnosis on the other end of all of this. Brock, any words of wisdom to kick us off? The best thing that we bought with all of our Amazon gift cards that we got for our wedding has been one of those nugget ice makers. So if Brock sits here and chews on his chewable ice for the entire live stream right into the microphone, it's not my fault. Okay, I just want to say that up front.
It's so good.
Words of wisdom. Kick us off, buddy. Who are you if people haven't gotten to meet you yet? Because you're not on very often.
No, I'm not. I am Brock. I am now Isabel's husband. Some of you may have seen me in previous live streams as Isabel's boyfriend or as Isabel's fiance. We are now hitched.
Heck yeah, baby.
Fun fact, I actually left my ring on the honeymoon.
He basically hates me. It's
in
fine.
Greece, and they had to ship it. Luckily, they found it, and they had to ship it back.
They did.
I left it on the first day of our honeymoon. Lost it in Greece. And that
Such a bad
that
move.
was an awkward conversation of standing in the airport saying you lost your wedding ring.
Yeah.
So there's that. But basically, we're a month into marriage, so we're practically experts. We know everything about it.
We do. We're living the dream. TBH. All right. Well, you guys wanted to hear about our wedding day. You wanted to hear a little bit about our honeymoon. We celebrated a full month being married on Monday. And I'll say up front before we tell any stories or answer any of your questions, we are not marriage experts, okay? We've been married for approximately 5 minutes. So in no way, shape, or form does any of this intend to come across as, oh my gosh, we know everything about marriage because we're married now. We're brand new to this journey and figuring it out together and going on this adventure for the first time ever. Believe it or not, we've never existed before. So we are figuring all of this out at the exact same time so many of you guys are in this really exciting season of life. But I'm a huge believer in sharing all of these experiences with you guys because marriage is easily, I think, the biggest cultural institution under attack right now. And I think it gets a lot of misinformation and bad labeling from the left, largely in culture, about things that are fundamentally not true, or at least haven't been true so far in our experience. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. We have pre-selected some questions that you guys submitted on my Instagram story, on our YouTube community page, and on our locals community. But before we get to some of those and answer some of your questions from the chat, Brock, you want to tell any stories or think about anything that really stood out to you from our wedding day?
Our wedding day?
Yeah. Or like wedding weekend, I guess, at large, because we really did have kind of a whole weekend of festivities.
That's tough. Your sisters gave a really fun speech.
Facts, actually. I wish I had a video of it right now. Dang it.
So her sister, she has 2 younger sisters, for anybody who doesn't know. They were the maids of honor at our wedding, and they gave a toast/roast at the reception, and they broke out into song and dance. It was hilarious. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind.
Okay, it was pretty epic.
It was just like what I remember. I was thinking of reception, and I was like, what do I remember about reception? I was like, oh, like that was a big moment. I do remember that.
Yeah, huge standout moment from our wedding was definitely my sister's maid of honor toast. They rewrote the lyrics to Aaron's Party by Aaron Carter, which you might be too young to appreciate, but you might know the song. It was pretty iconic. And came up with like a rap about me and Brock, and it was the best thing I ever could have envisioned. Literally last thing I ever imagined they would do for their maid of honor toast, but that was very cool.
What else do I remember?
I'll back up. We'll go through the whole weekend. So for those that didn't see any pictures yet, and we haven't shared a ton because we don't have our professional pictures back, we got married at the end of June in the mountains of Colorado where I grew up. We chose Vail, Colorado as our home base for wedding weekend because that has always been my favorite place to go skiing and to go hiking and spend time in the summer. It is easily my favorite place in the state of Colorado and holds a really special place in my heart. And when Brock and I first started dating, the first weekend I brought him home to meet my family for Labor Day in 2021. We brought him on a 12-mile hike on Vail Mountain, and he was struggling like big time. My poor dad had to tell that story during our wedding. He was struggling.
They tried to kill me,
but he kept up. He passed the test, and ever since, you have absolutely loved Vail. Every single time we go to Vail, Brock always looks at me and is like, hey, so let's move here. And I think, okay, can we win the lottery? Because we cannot afford to live here, but maybe someday. So we had everybody come in. I actually did my bachelorette party the week of our wedding because my friends are all very, very spread out across the country. Everyone was coming from a different spot. So we came in a few days early, and my girlfriends and my sisters and I ended up doing like a bachelorette weekend, but on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of our wedding week. We hiked to the top of a 14er. We went horseback riding. We treated it like summer camp. It was absolutely magical and felt like the Parent Trap come to life, which was my literal dream come true. And then on Friday night of our wedding weekend, June 28th, we had our rehearsal dinner and a big welcome party for every single one of our guests because most of our friends and family were coming from out of town at a bowling alley. You want to talk about that? That was your fave, I think.
I don't know if that was my favorite. That was really so. Obviously, rehearsal dinner is done by the groom's family, and so I didn't know anywhere in Vail. There's a really cool place. We'll shout them out. It's called Deca Bowl. If anybody has been to Vail.
12 out of 10 recommend.
It's like this cool, like upscale. It reminds me of like an upscale New York bar.
Kind of. It's got like a Art Deco vibe to it a little bit.
And it's one of these restaurants where it's like when you walk in, you have there's like the whole bar on the left, there's like restaurant seating. But when you go to the very back, it opens up into a whole nother area, which is like a different place. But it's like it's a whole bowling alley, and it's like this upscale bowling alley. So when I say bowling alley, everybody's like, "Oh, like at a bowling alley,"
which would have been fine too.
No, it's
in
like
the grand scheme of
it's like a really bougie bowling alley. And so we did the rehearsal dinner in the restaurant part, and then after the rehearsal dinner, we did a welcome party for everybody invited to the wedding weekend. And so we were there from like 5 o'clock to like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And after the rehearsal, I went straight to the bowling alley part, and then I had cocktails and desserts, and everybody joined in the welcome party. And it was like
we were bowling in like 10 different lanes at once because everyone wanted to bowl with the
there
bride
was
and
like
groom.
200 people in the bowling alley trying to bowl while talking to us. I think I might have thrown 2 bowling balls that entire night.
Oh, I threw. Let me just say, maybe proudest moment of my wedding weekend, other than the actual getting married part. I bowled 4 strikes in a row on our rehearsal dinner night. I was vibing. I was like on top of my game.
I don't know. I didn't know. I hardly bowled that.
I wanted to bowl, so that was my priority.
Oh,
but anyway.
I was too busy speaking to everybody. Everybody tells you on your wedding weekend, like, just be prepared to like say hi to everybody. Like, you're not going to get to eat. You're not gonna. That rehearsal dinner night, I did not eat dinner.
I didn't eat. Yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't get to bowl. I was having to talk to everybody, and not like in a bad way, but like I wanted to. That I just like time got away from me.
Yeah.
All the meals I had picked out for rehearsal dinner, I didn't even get to eat. So like I missed dinner. I missed all the parts of bowling alley. So I missed all of that, but got to have a lot of fun hanging out with all my friends.
Oh my gosh. It was so much fun to have all of our loved ones in the same room. And then Brock walked me back. I was staying at a condo with all of my bridesmaids and their spouses, and he was staying at a different hotel. He walked me back and we said goodnight. And the next morning we got up and started getting ready for our wedding, which was crazy. A lot of you guys have asked if we did a full Catholic wedding. And the answer to that is yes. We were very, very, very passionate about having, as you chew your eyes on the stream, about having a full Catholic mass for our wedding. It was very, very, very important to us to do that. So we did, and we had our wedding at this beautiful, idyllic white chapel that is shared by a bunch of different churches in the area, but it was through the Catholic Church, right in the center of Vail Ski Village, which was so stunning, spectacularly beautiful. Our priest is a long, long, long time friend of mine that I've known since my Catholic high school days. He used to lead some of our retreats and do mass at school, and he was just spectacular. Shout out Father Rick, you might be watching this, and sang a bunch of songs in the middle of mass, sang Billy Joel. Like, it was so iconic. Everyone was laughing, and it was the most lighthearted, fun mass I think I've ever been to, which is kind of fun to say that about your wedding. And the chapel itself was just spectacularly gorgeous and really rustic and had a bunch of wood tones inside. And behind the altar was a big window that looked out to the river that runs through Vail Village and a bunch of pine trees. And I will never forget, during the actual transubstantiation of the host for communion, Brock and I were kneeling down at the base of the altar, and everybody else was kneeling behind us. And we both were looking up past Father Rick into this window, and all this light came flooding through, and it's just what I imagined heaven to look like. That was such a special moment.
I can't wait to see our pictures for that. It's going to be, we obviously don't have our professional wedding photos yet. We just have like little
teasers,
like iPhone pictures that people took, or little like, so we're excited for that. But in terms of the actual ceremony that I remember, I mean, I remember a lot of it. I was trying not to like black out. I was trying to like be very cognizant of,
which is hard, you guys. Everybody tells you your wedding kind of like goes by in a blur before your eyes, and you kind of laugh at that, thinking, well, maybe that was true for you, but it won't be true for me.
So fast.
I had to focus so hard at different points of our wedding day to like stare at something 10 times in a row to make sure I cemented it into my memory.
And I was like also trying not to like mess up, or like I was so scared I was gonna like drop the rings when we were doing the ring ceremony. There was like 8 million things going through my brain, but I cried, which was a good thing.
When I came down the aisle, or just in general? You cried a few times.
Well, we were afraid, we didn't do a first look. We're very anti-first look.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we do that, Brooke? Why did we say no to doing and for those who don't know, maybe you don't do this outside the States. There's been this big trend lately in weddings where you do something called a first look, where before the ceremony, thank you, Libby, for that. Before the ceremony, the bride and the groom like go off separately with their photographer, and they just privately, the two of them, have this moment where she shows him her outfit. You do this whole thing, and then you take a bunch of pictures, and it's supposed to like calm your nerves from your wedding day. I always thought it was super weird, and so we both said absolutely not. We don't want to do a first look. I want the first time you see me on our wedding day to be walking down the aisle. And he in particular was super, super passionate about not doing a first look. So why were you nervous about that?
About not doing a first look?
Or about me coming down the aisle? You said you were nervous.
Well, I was nervous because you made it very clear that I was supposed to cry.
Well, I don't know. It seems like an important moment. This man cries at commercials of old people, and like the Sarah McLachlan dog commercial. I mean, we all cry at that. If you don't have a soul.
You're acting like I'm a heartless person.
No, he cries at everything. So I was like, if you're going to cry at a commercial, I hope you cry when I walk down the aisle.
So, you have to be very aware. And I was like, when we got engaged, I did not cry.
That's why.
I was very stoic. Very stoic. And we both laughed about that. And we were like, we thought at any time that I would cry, it would be then. And I was like, rock solid. I was like, nope, that kind of stuff. Now, like after the fact and like later, once we kind of like settled down like 2 hours later, then, but I did cry at the ceremony.
Yeah, you did.
When you came down the aisle. Not like weeping, but I cried, which was good. Shed a tear.
Yeah.
Good. And good acting classes.
How did I look?
I looked great. Honestly,
what was running through your mind as you're like standing there watching it all happen?
It sounds weird, but nothing.
Really?
Nothing.
You were just in the moment.
Yeah, it was so like zoned out in the moment. Like nothing was going through my brain.
Interesting.
Honestly, from your walk to the door to the altar, I really don't remember it. Like I remember it, but I don't. If that makes sense. I know that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
But it's like I can visualize it. I can see you, but I don't know what I was thinking during that or whatever.
Just trying to be present.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then like I remember like getting the pass off from your dad and like doing all that. Like I am very cognizant of that, but like I just remember crying from the door to the altar.
Fair enough.
So.
Tears. You're thinking, good job, Brock. You cried.
Yeah, I did it. Now we're done. I can just go
Well
home.
done. What else about our ceremony really stood out? Our friends from Arizona, not to totally throw them under the bus, were a few minutes late. So I remember we were giggling in the middle of our ceremony because we were sitting next to the altar looking out at the congregation. And they didn't want to interrupt the service, and so they didn't want to come through the door and find a seat off to the side, which was so silly. They should have just walked through the door. But they were like doing the dance. Do we go in? Do we not go in? For a solid 3 minutes, and we were chuckling at that. Yeah. That was very cute. Our readings were fantastic by our best friends, and a little thing that kind of stood out to me was that in the Catholic Church, you actually get married in like the middle of Mass. Like you're married officially in the middle of Mass, but you don't do the kiss until the end. And so you're like halfway through before you do communion and before you do the Eucharist. Are we married? Are we not married? Did he just pronounce us? Did he not just pronounce us? That was a little confusing for me just because I hadn't really experienced that as a guest before very often, but that was very special too.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of moving parts. Typically at like a wedding, it's very like straightforward. You're just kind of standing there and then you...
For like 10 minutes,
15 minutes. Obviously, Mass is like an hour. So, you know, we were standing up and down, taking knees, walking back and forth for like a good amount of time. And literally a random point in the middle, you're married. So we were kind of like looking at each other like, I think it's now, right? Like we're technically married now, but we don't do so, you know, it's a lot. But it goes by very fast. It went, even though it was like an hour plus, it still was very quick. And then post like ceremony to reception, I mean, it
went
just,
really fast.
Everything flies by.
I'll say one more thing about the ceremony before we move on from that, and that's that in the Catholic Church, you have a choice to do like an abbreviated ceremony that's not technically a full Mass. You don't do communion. Or you can do a full Mass, which some people choose the shorter one for time. Some people choose it because not everybody coming to their wedding is Catholic, and they're trying to be cognizant of that. But we've always been really passionate about wanting to do a full Mass. And I just have to say I'm going to cry. Hang on. It was so special. The very, very first thing as husband and wife that we ever did was being able to take the body and blood of Jesus together and have that intimacy and union with God in such a tangible way, because that's what marriage is, right? It's a covenant not just between us, but also between a third party, and that being God. And so to literally be able to touch the body and blood of Jesus Christ as the very first thing that we did as husband and wife was so special. Yeah. So special. So then what do we do? We'll tell the rest of the story pretty quick.
Well, then we had reception, and our reception was up the mountain.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, in the Catholic Church, you can't get married outside in Colorado.
Silly rule, but
strange.
Nonetheless.
So we did wedding, Mass at the chapel, and then we did our reception up the gondola up on top of the mountain. So we got to do a fun gondola ride with our photographer. And it was a pretty long gondola ride. Like, it wasn't very short. It was like up
5-6 minutes, probably.
Yeah. So we got great photos in the gondola of us, like, just married, did a lot of fun stuff. And then when we got to the top, we took all of our bridal party photos in the mountain range up there, like, outside. So you guys will probably see a lot of Isabel's pictures. I think the picture you did post of, like, that was an iPhone picture, by the way.
The one that we collaborated on Instagram. Yeah, that was from my mom's iPhone.
Shout out Mrs. Brown.
Go Kelly. Yeah.
From her iPhone. That was where we took, like, all of our bridal party photos. And then our actual reception venue had like a big outdoor patio deck overlooking the mountains. So we did our cocktail hour out there. So while we were taking photos, everybody got to stand out there and drink and have fun and like listen to music on the patio while watching us like take photos and look at the mountains. And then we did the actual reception inside. So everybody could come in and eat dinner and do all that kind of stuff.
The views were spectacular and the weather was perfect, but we still got the good luck of rain on your wedding day, but it happened right after we were done taking pictures. And then all of the clouds started to part and the sunset was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my life. The dance party itself was just so fun. We tried not to be too cliche with our wedding while also not getting rid of the good cliches. So of course we still had like the bouquet toss and the cake cutting and all of the classic wedding things. But we didn't do the new thing that I see at every single person's wedding where you have the giant foam glow sticks. Instead, we did light up cowboy hats, which was so fun. Hit of the party.
Oh, it's upstairs.
Oh, one of the hats. Yeah, they're upstairs. Then we did cake and s'mores. We had a gourmet s'mores bar for our desserts, which was awesome. And everybody loved getting a break from that hot room and going outside and roasting some s'mores. What else? Our first dance was lovely, very wonderful. The toasts were all spectacular. My sisters rapped, as we already told you, which was probably my highlight of all of the speeches.
Gave us lightsabers.
We got lightsabers from the best man as our gift in the middle of our wedding, which was very us. And overall, I just really felt like the whole day went by in such a blur. It was crazy. It went so fast. And I tried hard to look out at the group of people sitting out there because it's probably the only time in your life that all of your loved ones are going to be in the same room together. And it kind of was a surreal feeling sometimes where you're like, you belong in this category in my brain from like work, and you belong over here from my earliest childhood memories and all those things, but you're all smashed together in the same room. Yeah. That was a lot to wrap your head around. But I was so grateful when all was said and done that we did a big white wedding, because there were so many tempting moments throughout this planning process when things were so complicated and stressful to plan. Everybody was traveling from somewhere to come to our wedding. Like it was basically a destination wedding, just happened to be in the States versus abroad. Everybody had questions and opinions, and it was like, and my mom asked me probably on 20 occasions, are you guys sure you don't want to just like elope on a glacier somewhere? Which was very tempting at moments. But looking out at that room of people that loved us so much and how much fun they were having, that was so special. And I wouldn't trade that for the world.
No, I think everybody that left our wedding, so many people came up to us at some point and were like, that was the most fun. We're so glad we came. Like, which really like, it does give you a little like boost of confidence when you leave. You're kind of like, oh, I'm glad everybody had a good time in my wedding and not just like, you know, you do it for yourself, but at the end of the day, you want everybody else to have fun too. So yeah, we're glad that everybody else had fun. We were very strict on our playlist.
Oh, very strict, but it was great. The playlist was amazing.
Playlist was great, but we were, we didn't do all of the classic, no Cupid shuffles, no, what's the other one? There's the Cupid shuffle. What's the other one that everybody does at weddings that you do? There's the cha-cha slide.
Oh, I had blocked that from my memory, to be totally honest with you.
No cliche dance songs. We did like our own thing of music, and we had a DJ. I know, but there's like a big debate between DJ and band.
Yeah, we loved our DJ.
So DJ was great.
Shout out Joe Bob. The GOAT, DJ'd for us and MC'd our wedding, which was so fun. And before we start answering people's questions, I'm just trying to think of the biggest thing I want to say about this. Everybody told me, all of my girlfriends who were married told me that you will feel different about your husband once he becomes your husband than you ever felt about him when he was your boyfriend or your fiance. And I kind of like, ha, that's so cute. But like, come on, how much different can you actually feel? Not that I was doubting that in any way, but like I already loved you so much. Like I was getting married to you. We've been together for 3 years. Like I didn't realize how different that could actually feel. And we both really noticed, and I'm curious to get your take on this too. The day after our wedding, when we woke up and we opened our eyes, I looked over at you and I was like, holy crap, I love this man more than I've ever loved another human being. I think it's akin to what people talk about when they have kids and they look at their baby for the first time, and it's like opening your heart up to this whole different type of love, which we haven't experienced yet. Hopefully we will. But it was kind of like that. Like I just felt this depth of love for you that I never expected in the best way. And I just feel like our relationship is already on a totally different level.
Yeah, it's very hard to explain.
That's true.
But we collectively, at 2 different points after our wedding, both said to each other, it feels different. Like something about, not that I like didn't love you or like didn't have these feelings before. It's just like, it feels different.
Yeah.
In a good way. Like it feels like more. To which, like, I think before you get married, you don't think that's possible, or you think like, oh,
I mean, I already love you so much. Like I'm gonna get married.
Did I make a mistake? Like, what am I doing? But in the best way possible, it was like, no, like it feels a lot different. Which I said to Isabel right after we got married. I think that means we did something right.
Yeah.
If we both collectively feel that means we did it the right way.
So it's been amazing. And to gloss over the rest of the story, to answer the rest of your guys' questions before we start pulling in some from the chat. We went on our honeymoon a couple days later. We definitely wanted to go on a honeymoon relatively right away. Most of our friends are waiting a few months. And for us, just the nature of our jobs and everything, if we waited a few months, we would never go on a honeymoon. It just wouldn't be possible. So we left almost immediately after. We had one buffer day in between, and we spent some time in Greece for a few days. We did Athens for a full day, and then Crete for 3 days, if I'm remembering correctly. Crete? 2 days. And then we went to Rome for 2.5 days. We spent a couple of days in Tuscany, which was so dreamy, amazing. I love Tuscany. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Spent a day trip in Florence, and then we finished our honeymoon out in Lake Como and then flew home. It was so dreamy. I had never been to Greece, but I had been to Italy, and I loved Italy the second time around even more, to be honest. But if you catch us completely off the grid and going MIA, we probably moved to accomplish Brock's new dream, which is... What'd you tell me at Monteverdi?
Oh, well, we just need to move to Tuscany and become olive oil farmers.
Sounds pretty freaking
great
great to me.
Life. They have the life.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. So if we just start our own label of olive oil, don't be shocked in the next few years.
What would you call our family olive oil brand?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I have to ruminate on that. But that is a fun question. I like that. And a wine label. We would do both, obviously, because why not? So, wine and not. Am I right?
What?
I made a pun. You didn't get it.
No.
It's fine.
It's fine.
So we asked you guys earlier today to submit some questions that you might have about married life. We're like 30 days in, other than all of my health issues that we've been dealing with, which we will share with you more when we know more because we just don't know much yet. It's been absolutely wonderful being married.
It's
Zero complaints.
I hate it.
So you guys submitted some questions on Instagram stories, YouTube community tab, and our locals community. So we'll answer those first, then we'll take a couple of questions from the chat. But mostly we're just happy to spend some time with you. Our first question is from Instagram, from our friend OMG4Wolf. Do you have any advice that you could impart for a guy who's going to propose soon? I'll let you start with that one because you're the guy.
Ooh.
It's a good one.
Well, there's a few pieces of advice. The first piece of advice to someone proposing is don't propose unless you know what she's going to say.
Ooh, that's good.
If you're
really good.
If you're questioning whether she's going to say yes or not, then you're not ready. Don't propose. That was a great piece of advice I got. Not when I was ready to propose, when I was young. I kept seeing people like when people like propose at like baseball games or like amusement parks and you see them get rejected and like the woman runs away. I always think about, I'm like, how did you not know she was going to say yes? Like, why were you proposing if there was even a remote possibility of her saying
I
no?
I agree.
Like, you should know exactly what her answer is going to be and like exactly like how you should do it or where you're going to do it. Like all that kind of stuff should be the easiest thing. The only difficult part about proposing is should be just setting it up.
Like how you're going to do it.
Like how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it,
That's
who's
fair.
going to be there, that sort of thing. It should never be like, what's her answer going to be? Are we going to be a good fit? Is this going to work out long term? Like, you should be like ready to marry her by that point.
Fair enough.
Then it's on you to like plan on how you do it, who's there. Is it just private? You got to get a photographer. So I guess the next piece of advice would be to plan accordingly.
Which is different for everybody, I think, right?
Yeah, like
some people don't want anybody there. Some people
True.
want their
It's
whole
very
family
much
there.
Like, to be honest, you should probably talk to your fiance or your girlfriend about it. Like, you should know her well enough to know whether she wants a big public party, proposal with all of her family there and all of her friends.
Yeah.
Or she just wants it just the two of you, very private, like, probably with a photographer. Like, she wants to capture the moment or have a friend hide the bushes and videotape it, something like that. But you should know, if you're going to propose to her, you should know that well enough. I knew well enough that Isabel did want her family there.
Mm-hmm. Still a sore subject in this
part
family.
Is her family. Everybody lived on every different part of the country.
I know, it was too hard.
My family couldn't be there. Her family couldn't be there. So I just pulled the trigger. I was like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Fair enough.
Everybody's fine to this day. We're all getting along. So A, know what she's going to say, and then B, plan to fit her dream proposal accordingly. Whether that's public, private, how many people, not many people, dinner, whatever.
I would say, I'm going to answer this question a little bit differently. I know this question came from a guy, but you got the guy's side of things. If you're a girl who's thinking you might want to get engaged soon or you might want to marry the guy that you're dating, spend as much time as humanly possible in prayer about whether that person is supposed to be your husband. Because I think looking back on my own dating history, and we're very open about all of this. I've said a lot of these stories publicly before. I was always the girl that was like, I can fix them. I can change him. I can fix him. And I was always feeling like I was trying to put a square peg into a round hole, but I would like gas myself up and convince myself like, I'm going to marry this person. I'm going to marry this person. And I'm like committed to it, even if everything is going wrong in this relationship. And there were infinite signs from God that like, this ain't it, honey. It's okay. Like, move on. It's fine. So I had to spend a lot of time after I broke up with the guy I was dating before I met Brock in prayer and just like really reflect and say, you know what? I don't want to be in charge of my dating life anymore. I'm not even going to pursue anything. God, you bring the right person into my life at the time and the place that is best for you. And I will just be here listening, working on myself. And I think when I made that mental switch and I started praying about the qualities that I wanted in a man without knowing who that person was necessarily, that made my intuition open so much more into knowing how to recognize that person when I met him, which I did. I recognized it immediately. I was like, that's the guy. But I think for women especially, it's so tempting to be like, I've invested so much time. I've invested so much energy. I've invested so many resources into this relationship. And you kind of deep down know this is not the person I'm supposed to marry, but you almost don't want to admit it to yourself because you've spent so much time investing in that relationship. So the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody considering engagement or discerning marriage at all is to pray about knowing for sure that is the person that you are supposed to spend the rest of your life with, because God will make that obvious to you. And my fun piece of advice is that you should get your ring from the amazing people at Katie Anderson Diamonds. Brock designed my ring with this amazing jeweler out of California. We found out about her through a couple of different avenues. If you guys see the 1776 necklaces that all of us conservative girls wear all the time, she sent these to us a couple of years back. And we wear them every single day. But then they really got big as a business, largely on Public Square, who, shout out, is the GOAT. But Katie Anderson Diamonds, Katie, we love you. We get asked about my engagement ring every single day from our friends, from our family, from followers that I have on social media. She literally designed this from scratch with you. Completely took all of Brock's ideas and notes and everything.
Like 2 weeks.
And got it to him in like 2 weeks. And she brought it to church to be blessed even before she shipped it out. So please check them out. We love them. They are the most amazing people ever. All right. What is our next question? Oops. Why am I seeing the same picture here? Here we go. Elephants for Amy wants to know, did anything go wrong on our wedding day? That's a fun question. I mean, yeah. Oh, I got a good one. I don't even think you know about this yet.
Like wrong?
Yeah. So
I mean,
right
like
before our wedding, I have a good story. I don't think you know that this happened.
It depends how you would like say wrong. Like if something happened that was like a mistake that like you could fix, or like what?
Well, let me tell my story and then I'll answer that. So right before our wedding, the girls went over to the chapel before the guys did because we needed to hide in the back so that Brock didn't see me. So I'm like back in the bridal suite. And we're putting on my dress at the church because we didn't want it to get dirty from the walk from the condo over to the church. And we're putting it on, and I'm about to put my shoes on, and I realize that one of my shoes is literally missing the strap for my shoe. Like, I would literally not have a shoe, basically. So it fell out somehow in the condo when we were getting ready. So we had to send one of my sister's boyfriends, I think it was Caleb, shout out the GOAT, who ran back to the condo to look for this random strap of a shoe. And it took like several minutes. We were kind of panicking. It was fine. And then right after that, he's on his way back, and we noticed we don't have our marriage license. It's not at the church. Nobody grabbed it from the condo. So we had to send, I think, my bridesmaid Maggie's boyfriend Ryan back to go grab our marriage license. And this was, I'm not joking, like 2 minutes before I'm supposed to walk down the aisle. So we're like calling all these people. We're like, we need this marriage license immediately after the wedding so that we can sign it and give it to the church. So that was a little stressful. On the back end, I don't even think Brock knew that happened until right now.
I'm glad I didn't know that.
He would have been really stressed about it.
Out,
but long story short, yes, obviously things went wrong on our wedding day. And I think we went into our wedding both with the understanding of if stuff goes wrong, it goes wrong. Like if things don't show up, if things aren't exactly the same as we planned for them to be, it's just a thing, right? It's just a decoration. It's just a person. It's not that big of a deal. The only thing that really matters today. Like if they're late or if they like
Oh.
all of those things. Like
It's just a person. Someone
okay,
dies.
you're not
Oh, it's
listening.
just a person.
Not that. Oh my gosh. No, but we just both had the attitude going into the experience that like we're getting married today, and it doesn't really matter if the weather's bad. It doesn't really matter if something rips. He ripped my dress multiple times. That went wrong, but whatever.
Yeah, it's like nothing went wrong, I guess. One of my groomsmen didn't have his pocket square, so I literally used a handkerchief. Like, not like literally a handkerchief.
Oh, a sock. No, you used
No, that was for me.
Oh!
So one of my groomsmen all wore black tuxedos with white pocket square.
Yep.
One of my groomsmen didn't have his white pocket square, so I literally grabbed a tissue,
A Kleenex.
like a Kleenex from the bathroom, and just like folded it and tucked it in, and it
worked.
great. Nobody knew that. He had forgotten like halfway through the night. I forgot I wore a white jacket, like a white tuxedo jacket. I forgot my black pocket square.
Yeah.
I don't know if I forgot it or I didn't have one to begin with.
I think you left it at my parents' house in
remember.
Evergreen, if
And
I
was,
remember.
I was like, where the heck? I mean, I honestly could have just not worn one. It would have been fine. But I had an extra pair of black tuxedo socks. Like I had brought like multiple because I wore corgi socks
yeah.
to make Isabel happy.
Guys, obviously I'm going to marry a man who wears corgi socks to our wedding, okay? Do you expect anything different from me at this point?
I had fun socks on. I had fun corgi socks if anybody saw her picture. So I had a pair of black tuxedo socks. So I literally took a pair
I forgot about that.
God bless whoever gave me, I can't remember if it was you. I think it was you that gave me that little sewing kit.
It was
just
me.
in case.
Shout out
That's
TikTok
good
bride
advice
saying bring a sewing kit to your wedding day.
That's good advice for anybody getting married. Have multiple sewing kits, one for the groomsmen and one for the bridesmaids, because you will need it. And I took the little scissors and cut up socks, and I folded black tuxedo socks into a pocket square
and it worked.
And it looked good.
It worked great.
Nobody even knew. I was like, yeah,
there were a few other things, like a few decorations we wanted at the reception didn't get put out somehow. They like ended up in the back room because we couldn't go up there and set it up ourselves that day. But like, yes, things went wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Honestly, don't even have a recollection of it. Didn't dampen our day at all. So I think going into your wedding day of the mindset that knowing there will be little things that go wrong, don't let it ruin your day. Don't be a bridezilla. It's just nobody likes that person, and you are going to make yourself miserable on your wedding day because you won't have any fun.
Nothing drastically went wrong.
Correct.
That was like going to ruin the night.
Well said. Well said. All right, our next question is from Daniela. Do you have any wedding regrets or things that you wish you had changed or had at your wedding that you didn't?
Would have changed?
Or regret, like things we would have done differently? I wish we would have built in a timeline for our extended family pictures at the church, because that ended up taking away some dancing time at the reception. But that didn't like ruin our night, or like if I did it the same, I wouldn't be upset by that.
I don't know if I have any regrets necessarily. What would I would have changed? I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
I really can't think of anything monumentally big.
Yeah.
It was pretty perfect.
If I say something, it would be so little that it's just like you don't even think about it.
No, it was pretty perfect, to be honest with you. Our wedding was very dreamy. Brock cried on the flight home. Not to throw him under the bus. You got the post-wedding blues pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And which I know exists. They exist for everybody because it's this thing that you've been building up for your whole life, of the biggest day of your life, the most important day of your life. And then in like a blink of an eye, that day is over. And you're like, oh my God,
sad.
What do I do now? There is a sadness associated with that for sure. So the fact that he was sad that it was over to the point that he cried, I don't think we really would have changed anything, to be honest.
Nothing that would have made a difference.
Nothing monumental. Another question from Daniela. How have y'all included God in your relationship? Any advice on keeping a relationship godly? Ooh, I love that. I love that. We've always really incorporated our faith into our dating life and our engagement life. I'm going to answer this from the married perspective. I'm so grateful we had a church wedding up front.
Yeah.
Because from the very first day of our marriage, it was incredibly obvious to everybody around us, even the night before at our rehearsal dinner, everybody was giving speeches about how important faith has been in our friendships with our bridesmaids and groomsmen, and how obvious it is important to our married life and our relationship directly. And so having a church wedding, I think, really emulated that is the most important thing about us as individuals and us as a couple, that ultimately the point of marriage is to try to get each other to heaven and sanctify each other. So that's good. I'd say that was hugely important to us, about making God the center of our marriage from the first moment.
I have a hot take.
Ooh. About what?
Strap in.
Oh boy.
Your marriage isn't going to work unless God is the main focus of your relationship.
Can I get an amen?
Your marriage is destined to fail unless it has a foundation that you can go back to. And it's important to not just like you as an individual, but your partner, that more like, it's not going to offend Isabel if I tell her that there is one more thing in my life that is more important to her, and that's my faith. I think she would respect that and obviously reciprocate that back to me.
Yeah, and I hope that that's the case,
and
actually.
Like, if you're in a committed relationship to the point where you're going to get married, you would want that out of the other person. Like, that would be your goal for the other person.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you know you're in the right headspace.
When it is the primary.
That it's not like, oh, I'm just like so in love. Like, let's go have chat. Like, oh, that's great and all. But it's like, that needs to, I mean, that was one of the first conversations we ever had, even before we started dating.
Yeah.
It was like, what's your view of God? Like, what do you want out of life?
We asked each other that the first day we met, actually.
Which, like, that, it sounds really cheesy, but, like, that has to be, I'm a fully believer of your marriage is not going to work unless that is your foundation. And, like, people can try to make it, like, you can try to fit a square peg into a round hole, but, like, eventually your marriage will falter, like, at some point. Or, or it might not falter at all, but it'll just be, like, not the fullest version of what it can be.
Because it's, at that point, this might be a really exceptionally hot take, without God, it's not marriage.
Preaching.
It's a relationship. You can have a contract with somebody, but it's not the covenant of marriage without God at the center of your marriage.
I'm with you.
So I know I appreciate that, actually. But in terms of like tangible action items to do this, we started really laying the foundation for this in our engagement season, and I'm really grateful for all of the mandatory pre-wedding prep that the Catholic Church makes you go through, to be honest, because it forces you to lay this as the foundation of your marriage before you're married. But we pray together before every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if we're eating it together. We go to church together every single Sunday. We pray together every single night before we go to bed, or at least try to if I'm not passed out feeling sick, which has been a problem the last week or so. So we do these little things together every single day, trying to build a habit of that, to just make that something we don't even have to think about anymore. That, like, obviously God is included in everything. Is there any other, like, little thing I'm forgetting?
No. I mean, it's hard. I mean, we say that like it's super easy. It's not. It's hard. Mm-hmm. We fail at it just like everybody else. So it's very... The best way I can describe it to you is the fullest way you can love your partner and love your spouse, obviously in this case being your wife, is to give yourself fully to God, and then you can't love your partner more than God loves your partner. So the only way you can experience
my husband, you guys, like, oh, so good,
is to like try to reciprocate God's love for your partner. And like the only way, I feel like we've gotten into so many deep, not just theological but marriage talks with each other of just like, like we're gonna get into 8 million different arguments. We're gonna have kids and be up late at night taking people to the hospital. We've already been to hospital visits and all this kind of stuff.
A month in, yeah.
Like all kinds of crap that will just destroy your marriage, destroy your life, destroy your just like inner drive to do anything. And if you have your relationship with God to fall back on, like your marriage will stand the test of time.
Do you guys see why I married him? He's just the best. You're so great. If you guys are just now joining us, because I see our viewership spiking a little bit, I'm so happy to be back streaming with you guys after a couple weeks off with some unknown still health issues. We will get the information to you and be as transparent as possible when we have more information, but I'm still awaiting a formal diagnosis. In the meantime, we have been married for just over officially a month, and you guys have been requesting for a long time for us to do a how does it feel to be married live stream. So we are answering your questions about our first month of marriage and our wedding and everything in between. We have some pre-selected questions that we have from our Instagram story and from some other places earlier today, but we're going to get to the live chat here in just a second. All right. Next question is from Joe. Where did you get your dress? It's really pretty. I love this question.
That's not a question for me.
It is actually.
This is, guys, see, this is how.
Wait, it is a question for you because I'm going to ask you about it. Hush. Okay, my dress is beautiful. They did an amazing job. And what's interesting is I actually was so ridiculously torn between two dresses that could not have been more fundamentally different as dresses. And I even had a little bit of buyer's remorse, like leading up to my wedding. Should I have picked the other dress? Because I loved the other dress that much. The reason we decided against the other dress is the fabric was kind of like a crinkly crepe fabric. It was a little stiffer than the dress that I had, which was really flowy. And it honestly felt kind of wintry because the fabric of the dress looked like snow. And so we thought, rationalized with my mom and my sisters, if I was getting married in the winter, I would have chosen the other dress immediately, hands down. But because I was getting married in the summer, we ended up going with the dress that I had. I don't have any pictures like available to pull up right this very second of my dress, but if you guys saw it, it was really simple from the waist down. Beautiful flowy chiffon material, and then the whole upper bust was like floral embroidery of wildflowers and leaves and like natural plants. The back had this like the back was my favorite part. This beautiful like embroidery pattern going up my back of all these wildflowers. It was so gorgeous. They did an amazing job, despite some zipper snafus along the way and having to get the zipper replaced like 3 times. But my dress came from a designer called Anna Cara, A-N-N-A space Cara, K-A-R-A. And I picked it out at Lovely Bride, which is a bridal boutique that has locations all over the country. They helped me really pick my absolute dream dress, and I loved it. But I'm really curious, Brock did not want to see any pictures. He wanted no pictures of the dresses I didn't pick. He certainly did not even want an image at all of what my dress was going to look like. Did my dress look like what you thought it was going to look like, and what did you honestly think of it? And now that you've seen the second choice dress, is it better or worse?
Well, your dress, the dress you went with is better than the other one.
Okay.
I think we talked about that.
I made the right call. Nice.
And I agree with your assessment of the second dress.
It's amazing. Like, it was a beautiful dress. But it just was wintry.
It just was more, yeah, I can see that. I think the first dress was more you than the second dress.
That was the other thing. My mom said that the second dress reminded her more of my middle sister. So, Gabby, we have your wedding dress completely picked out for you when you're ready.
I can see that.
And it's very Gabby. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Did I think it was going to look like that? I don't know. I think it's hard. I could be wrong. Anybody can feel free to correct me in the chat. But as a man, I don't think we really think about what wedding dresses look like.
You just see white dress?
Yeah, I don't think we really have like a cognizant like thing of like, oh, this is what the back of a wedding dress looks like. I think if we see a wedding dress, we can say, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't. Or like, that kind of thing.
Okay, so when you saw my dress for the first time, like what was going through your head?
Oh, well, I said you this earlier.
I have no idea.
All right, that's fine. But I know for a fact I wasn't thinking, oh, I don't like her dress. Like, so that I did. And then when I was able to like actually look at it and be like, I said that to you. I was like, oh, I love your dress.
Yeah.
Your dress turned out great. I don't think I had any like, I told her for months leading into it, I don't even want to see a picture of like
any of the bad choices.
I don't want to see what you didn't pick. Like, don't show me anything because I don't want a preconceived notion of like what it's going to look like. And, I think that helps me not like when she came down the aisle, I was just more like in awe more than like, oh, nice dress. And then like over the course of the night, I think I tore your dress about 4 different times.
I had a long train on my dress, and even with the bustle, it still drug on the floor a little bit because I'm only 5'1", so like we really tried to get it up. But he stepped on it probably like a dozen times. There's a huge rip in the back of my dress. I need to take it somewhere and get it fixed up, actually.
We literally, like, as we were, like, being announced.
It was so bad.
Like, to walk through so that they were like, now and just, as I stepped on it.
Yeah, that was... I just looked at him and I was like, thanks.
Well,
thanks
to be fair, there's actually a video of this, so I can prove it, too. Before they announced us, because you had, when we, like, went into our reception venue, there was like a little ways you had to go before you got to like the dance floor and like the middle area where we're supposed to go.
Okay, don't do
Let
this.
me talk. Isabel goes, she goes, do not run. She goes, we are not going to run. Because, you know, like everybody kind of usually runs out there and does big things. She was like, we're not running. So I was like, okay, we're not going to run. And they announced this. And Isabel takes off. Full sprint ahead.
I did not.
It
was like a light jog.
No, I mean, like you were like busting it. You were Olympic running. You were like through the door. And obviously, I like took one step, and there was
fake news,
ripped. And
propaganda.
She was like, what happened? I was like, I thought we weren't running.
Ripped, but it's fine. Anyway, my dress is from Anna Cara. It's absolutely spectacularly beautiful. Zero regrets whatsoever. Our next question is from Marcola. Did you feel a change between you the following morning or the same? We kind of talked about this already, but it was like an immediate change, and it was kind of reaching a different depth of love than I've ever experienced as a human being. Yeah, it's kind of the nicest way I can say that.
Change. It was all change in a good way. It was like change in like, oh, I feel different about her, but not in like a. Not in like I didn't feel about her before we got married. It was just more like
more.
Yeah, like I love her more than I could have
before.
Not married.
Yeah. I also think my friend Daisy, who is amazing, we love Daisy, said to me, I think Friday night of our wedding weekend.
Daisy was the one who was late to the wedding.
Sorry, I wasn't gonna say that, babe. I wasn't gonna embarrass her. Anyway, she had said to me Friday night, maybe of our wedding weekend, that when she and her husband Luke got married, the very next morning, and every time since throughout their marriage, every day, she has understood gender roles a lot more now. And I thought that was super interesting. She was like, the way that I love him is like a softer, more feminine love than I did before. Not that I like wasn't feminine before. And the way that he loves me is way more protective instincts and like provider oriented, which I thought was really interesting. And I have felt a little bit of that this month. Like I don't know. Does that make any sense?
A little bit.
Like, I just feel like it's more heightened now that we're married.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Get back in the kitchen.
Okay. What do you want for dinner, by the way? We need to talk about that. Good question. Next one is from Chocolate Turtle 33. How do you proactively avoid conflict? And if there is conflict, how do you resolve it? Well, first of all, I said at the very beginning of this stream, I'm not going to pretend like we are marriage experts. We've been married for approximately 5 minutes a month. So no, we're figuring this out just as much as you guys. Obviously, there is conflict in any relationship. Like, yes, Brock and I fight. Shocking information, I know. But I think we've approached fighting a little bit differently after marriage, like knowing divorce is not in our vocabulary in this family. We have established that as a rule immediately. So whenever we're fighting, in the back of my mind, I think to myself, nothing could be so bad that we can't figure it out. So I just don't take it so seriously now, I guess. Like the threat of breaking up is gone. So
we had a fight like a few nights ago where I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, what were we even fighting
I don't even remember what we were fighting about, but I couldn't stop laughing, and you thought I was laughing at you, and I was like, I'm not laughing at you, I just can't stop laughing at this fight.
He said it was like when you're in elementary school and the teacher is like, this isn't funny.
Yeah, like, you know, when your teacher would be like, if the next person who laughed gets attention, and then for some reason, the way she said that is the funniest thing on planet Earth, that Isabel was trying to talk to me seriously, and I just could not stop laughing at her.
It was actually, and then that made me laugh, and we stopped fighting.
I have said the line many times in our relationship of, I love you more than I want to fight with you right now. Granted, there's a lot of times where I do want to fight with her.
You're a stubborn person.
Yeah, if you guys can believe Isabel, who loves to talk and loves to argue for a living, is the second most argumentative person in our household. That's how crazy our...
And I went to nationals for speech and debate twice, baby. So, yeah.
She is very...
Our kids are going to be
She is very
so
stubborn, and I am very stubborn, so we tend to butt heads a lot on little things that, like, not never anything bad. But little things like what airline we're taking turns into like, well, this airline...
That's what we were fighting about. When you laughed at me, I think.
Was British Airways versus American Airlines?
Yeah. Anyway.
But ultimately, like, yes, there are arguments within your marriage, and you try to avoid them. We do very good when we're not arguing to talk about potential arguments. Say, like, hey, let's make sure next time we argue, like, let's, like, grab
we have
each other
some,
and
like,
just be like,
specific rules. Like, when we get in a really stupid argument where both of us know this is not worth arguing about, we hug it out. So we hug each other and we squeeze as hard as we possibly can. That usually makes us laugh, and then we stop fighting.
Or Isabel will try to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Like at some point.
I'll say like an inappropriate word or something, and I'll throw him off.
And as soon as if I laugh, the argument's over. It's like, we'll just, we're done.
Just keep each other laughing, I guess, is a good way to proactively avoid conflict. But there always will be conflict. Like, you can't have a conflict-free relationship because that's completely superficial. It doesn't exist.
I will say we do have rules that we've established in our marriage of like, we'll never walk away from an argument.
Oh yeah,
you're
that's
never allowed.
big.
You can't leave the room like
until it's resolved.
Until it's resolved. So like if one person, you always tend to like just be like, oh well, I'm done. I don't like whatever. Like you go do your thing. We can never do that. It's never like you go upstairs, I stay downstairs. Let's just like no, we have to resolve whatever it is. And like
which is a good rule.
We have to like even if we're pissed, we have to like make up and say like okay, like I apologize, we're done. It might take an hour to like get over it, but we've already like established
we've
worked
through it. Yeah,
we'll work through it. We're done. And then we never, what was that? We like never go to bed without
resolving
the issue. Like same kind of similar as the other one, but like we're never.
I think there's only been one time that we've really stayed up super late. I mean, we stayed up till like 3-4 in the morning.
However long it takes, we're gonna like get through it.
And we do.
Like we'll never like go to bed arguing.
But I meant what I said. I really do feel like the pressure of arguing has so diminished since we got married because he's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So like if the threat of, oh my gosh, this could destroy our relationship, not that anything has happened since we've been married that would, but like, I mean, there were definitely tension oriented situations we had in our engagement where it was like, are we going to get married? Yeah. Like, is this going to work out? I don't know. And we both had those moments when we were married or engaged or dating. But now I just feel like, sure, you might annoy me sometimes, and I'll probably annoy you sometimes, the sugar packets. But there's nothing so serious that we can't figure out a way to laugh in the middle of an argument. So far, anyway. We say that as people who've been married for 1 month. But we're also not going to be those podcasters that are like, marriage is so hard. It's the hardest thing that you've ever had to do, you guys. It just requires so much hardness. Nope. But that's what makes it beautiful. Your marriage really shouldn't be that hard.
I was telling somebody the other day.
At the very beginning of it, especially.
I know that I married the right person when somebody asked me not too long ago, like about going out and hanging out and doing something like going out after work or like going to get drinks or something like that. And I was like, I want to go home and hang out with my wife.
Thanks,
like,
babe.
When you want to go hang out with your significant other, like even if it's just like doing something very casual, it's kind of like that's when you know you've that's how easy it is. Like, yeah, no, like I actually want to spend time with my wife.
I guess I'm kind of fun in the grand scheme of things, so I'm going the wrong way. All right, this is a good one. How long until you both try for children? It is always a good idea to get to know each other and enjoy each other first before bringing children into your life. Any talk of kids yet? And I'm seeing a lot of stuff come through in the comments sections and the live chats right now, everybody. Let me just put one thing to rest. No, I am not pregnant. Everybody... I don't know what it is in the conservative Christian world, but like there's this expectation that if you're not pregnant 5 seconds after your marriage, you did something wrong maybe. I am a little puffy because I might have an autoimmune disease, but we'll figure that out in the next few weeks. No, I am not pregnant. And I saw a question come through and I want to tie it in from the live chat with this. They were asking, are you going to follow the church's teachings on birth control, that you're not supposed to be using birth control in your marriage? Yes. So we have both agreed we are not using any form of artificial birth control in this marriage. I was on birth control pills for almost 10 years of my life. I'm very, very transparent about that with you guys and why I was prescribed birth control for acne and then all kinds of other stupid health reasons completely unrelated to preventing pregnancy and how much it literally destroyed my body. So we have said we're not going to do that. Not a part of our marriage. We are doing natural family planning, so I'm tracking my cycle. I use a couple of different apps to do that. I do 28 Wellness from EV Magazine, which is great, and I use Natural Cycles as well. But that's really effective when it's used correctly, and we've kind of talked about waiting like a year and a half before we start officially trying. But we've also said if it happens, we're not going to be upset about it. Babies are a gift.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I don't think we're... Just like that way of phrasing is hilarious to me. People are like, are you trying to have a baby? It's like, are you guys like having sex every night?
Yeah, literally, it feels so embarrassing. We're not even there yet, but I feel like it would feel so embarrassing to tell people we're trying so hard to have a baby.
Something about that when people are like, we're actively trying to have a baby, or like, you know, you tell your parents, we're like really trying hard to have a baby. It's like, what? We talked about waiting, like in terms of like having kids for like a year or something, just to like kind of get our feet under us a little bit, try and like get our own career situations doing the whatever. But we're very much of the mindset that if it happens, it's supposed to happen, and so like that would be.
We're
amazing.
Open to.
We
it.
would never be like, oh no, like
we want kids. Like that
Yeah.
is, we're very open to kids. Really, at any time God wants to send them our way.
We'd be very excited about it. We're just
ideally,
like,
we would like to buy a house before we have kids. Our lease is up on our current place at the end of the year, and so that's kind of a good time to start thinking about all of that too. And
yeah,
we'll see.
If it happens, it'd be great.
If it happens, it'd be great. It has not yet happened, for everyone's peace of mind associated with all of that. Our next question is from Crazy Cat Lady on Locals, who I know is getting married very soon. Congrats. What is the best way of dealing with family drama after the wedding? For example, holidays and finding a time to visit, or even if some family members aren't speaking to each other, but we still want them to be involved in our newly married life. I will say, I don't really think we've had any huge family drama post-wedding. Let me just say this up front. Every single family has family issues, okay? Nobody comes from a perfect family. And so especially when you're planning a wedding, there is a lot of concern and stress and tension surrounding, is Uncle so-and-so going to be able to be in the room with Uncle so-and-so? Are parents who've gotten divorced going to be able to talk to each other? How's this grandma who hates this person going to handle nephew? So, I mean, it's a lot, was thinking about everybody being in the same room. And so I think that gave us a little bit of angst going into our wedding. But after our wedding, we've had zero complications. Our actual wedding was flawless. Like everyone that we thought might have some tension got along beautifully. Long time separations, were reunited. I mean, it was great. It was perfect. It was beautiful. But I do think there is an important conversation you have to have with your spouse about the boundaries of what your new family looks like and how often you see your families of origin. That was a huge part of pre-Cana, the pre-wedding prep in the Catholic Church, was talking about your families of origin and how you might want to model your new family after his family or her family or not, and things that you don't want to continue in your new family. But I think really framing it as, you are family now, this is your immediate family now, and everything else is your extended family. That's hard. It's a really hard switch to make, especially because we were the first kids to get married in our family. It's just a big life adjustment for everybody. My sister called me maybe a week ago. No, she texted. It was a group text in our sister group text. And she was like, I was not prepared to see your new last name on your personal Facebook profile. And she was like, this is so crazy. Like, eventually none of us are going to be the Brown sisters anymore to some degree. And we talked about that transition and how wild that's been for us to be the first people to go through that. But having the expectation that this family always has to come first above your now extended family, even though that was your immediate family, was something we talked about really early on.
No, that was all super well said. I think understanding that your significant other is your family first is most important. I think we got super lucky, especially early on so far. I mean, like, obviously we haven't had any big holidays or anything since we've been married yet. But we typically have been alternating holidays with families. Like, you know, my family gets together every Thanksgiving. So, and Isabel's extended family doesn't, so like that kind of made sense to go.
Yeah, we're more of
Thanksgiving.
A Christmas family.
Her family gets together for Christmas. Mine does like scattered Christmases, so like that's kind of easy there. And then we like would alternate every other year, do whatever.
I think it'll also be different when we have kids. Not to interrupt you, sorry.
No, it's going to get different now. I mean, now that Isabel and I are married, we have to make that decision together.
It's easier for us to travel now, but like when we have kids, we'll probably want to do our own Christmas morning in our own house.
Yeah, like eventually, you know, you have to pick where you go and whose family's in. You obviously don't play favorites, but like eventually you have to like make your own decisions based off like
cousins
who's
and
planning what, who's going to what, like how big's the event, like what is what. Like you have to, and you're gonna like, look, this is the most honest to God truth. Nobody's gonna be happy with your life choices.
Feelings will be hurt.
So like, but like, no matter what you pick, if you go to one family's place one day and one the next day, that means you're not going to the other family's one day and not the next. So it's like, you know, you have to live with where you want to go. Like, it's just worked out for us that typically my family gets together on Thanksgiving
Yeah.
and hers gets together for Christmas, that it's been easy to segment like that. Well, it's like, oh, well, let's go see my all extended family at Thanksgiving and let's go see all of yours at Christmas. Like that kind of made sense.
We also pick like random off times to go see people. Like we went to Utah for my grandpa's 90th birthday in the middle of September last year, and that was so spectacular. And then I didn't see my grandparents again until our wedding. So like it wasn't as traditional of a holiday, but we do try to go out of our way to see our extended family on off times. And other than that, I mean, it kind of helps that my sisters are my best friends in the whole wide world. Like if I want to go on vacation, I want to go on vacation with my sisters probably. And they have amazing boyfriends who Brock gets along with really, really well. And we'll see if they stick it out for the long haul. Looking at you, Jared and Caleb. But we love spending time with them anyway. So the pressure is just kind of off of like having to see your family. We enjoy seeing our family a lot.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think we're blessed enough that we get to see our families a lot.
Yeah.
More than probably the most people, especially that live out of state. I mean, we live like across the country from our families. Your
And
family,
we
at
spend a
least.
lot of time on airplanes, to get
But
there.
we travel a lot, so we are blessed enough to like get to see our families and spend time with them, and even though we're all kind of separated and stuff like that. So it happens, but you have to be able to, I would say you have to be able to live with your own decisions. And like if you decide to go see somebody and not the other person, or you decide to go vice versa, like you have to like go with your decisions as a couple and be like, this is what we're deciding to do. And like,
Oh, best advice I can give you, crazy cat lady, is say, we are going to go do this thing, but you are always welcome to come visit us. Keep that door open all the time. People will make the effort to come, but that's always a good olive branch for like if people feel skipped out on that you didn't go see them or whatever. You are always welcome to come visit us, and people will usually make the effort.
yeah.
But feelings will get hurt sometimes, and that's life. You don't have unlimited time, so try to prioritize the time that you can with people. Anything else?
No?
Okay. Last question we have pre-selected, and then we will take some from the chat because I'm seeing some really good ones coming through. Julia wants to know if we have any encouragement for the singles that feel like they will not meet a godly significant other. Great question, Julia.
Where are you looking?
Good point.
That's what I want to know. Not that she's live in the chat, but
Well, she might be. Julia, if you're here, let us know in the Instagram chat. But I'll start with this one, actually. We talked a little bit about my previous dating history earlier on the stream, and until I met Brock, I always felt like I was having to lead the relationship in the faith side of things. Like I was always begging, please take me to church on Sunday. I was always saying we should pray before dinner or whatever. I that was like my thing. Not that the guys that I dated didn't love God or have a relationship with him or think that their faith was important. It just wasn't the most important thing in their life at all. And that might be attributed to just being young, like being a guy in your early 20s. And that's just not really your priority, to be honest. But it was totally different from the minute that I met Brock, that he was going to lead the relationship on the side of faith. Are you good? Mm-hmm. And so I will say up front, when you meet a godly man that is worth pursuing for marriage, that you know will be your leader in faith, you will know it immediately and it will be completely recognizable. But there is that season before you get there, either when you're dating or you are single with other people, that feels really frustrating and you're wondering, does a person like that even exist? How do I hold out for them? There's a couple things I want to say about that. First and foremost, this is kind of a hard truth, but it's a truth worth understanding. Not every single person will be called to the vocation of marriage. Some people will be. I think most people probably will be, but not every single person will be called to the vocation of marriage. And that's exactly what it is. It's a vocation. It's a calling for your life from God, not just a status on your taxes or a contract that you live with or a relationship status. And it requires a level of sacrifice that God has built your soul around with the intention of you pursuing the vocation of marriage. And not every single person is called to that. But that doesn't mean that love won't be a part of your life or whatever. And so I think really spending time assessing yourself as an individual and thinking, am I being called to the vocation of marriage? Praying and asking God, am I being called to the vocation of marriage? Allows you to focus on shaping your soul up front to be prepared for that, rather than constantly thinking about the guy or girl that's going to come into your life to fulfill that need in you. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So start with that. But encouragement for singles that feel like they're not out there, they are out there. This type of godly significant other, man or woman, that you think based on everything you see on social media is a myth and doesn't exist anymore and is a long gone, foregone conclusion out of our postmodern culture, they still exist, and they still exist by the millions. And I know because you guys all exist as my followers and our community members by the millions. And I get so many messages, more than any other topic, from you guys about how to find somebody wonderful to date who is a godly young man or woman. And so I think then it connects to Brock's point. Where are you looking? Where are you trying to find somebody? Because chances are it's going to be really hard to meet somebody who is not of this world when you are trying to meet people in the institutions of this world.
I would say some of the best advice I can give you is get off dating apps.
Delete them. Cancel. I never had them, but you did.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I found my significant other on dating app. Like, I would actually, I mean, yeah, is it possible to find a significant other that believes in this and has the same values as you? Of course. I think that is 100% in the minority. In that, like, the majority of people on dating apps do not think the same way you do in that sort of sense. So, look, you have to be willing to, like, I would say that God's going to put the right person in your life at the right time when you're ready. Not like when you think you're ready, if that makes sense. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I need a person in my life right now, like I'm ready to get married, whatever. Like, you might not actually be. Now, what being ready looks like might be different in your own head. Like, you might need to be spiritually ready. You might need to, like, get yourself in order. You might need to get right with the Lord and, like, be going to church and actively in your church group. And then the right person might come into your life. But all these sorts of things, like, you can't, it's kind of like what we said earlier with the idea of faith. You can't give somebody your full self unless you're ready to give your full self to the Lord.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And then I think you're ready. Then I think somebody might end up in your life. And look, like, you have to be dating apps excluded. Like, we'll just assume you're off of dating apps. Like, you know, getting involved at your church, like, go to the coffee shop. But this is going to sound bold. Go talk to somebody.
Believe it or not, it works.
It sounds counterintuitive to the way our culture works now, but just go talk to somebody. You don't have to be a creep. You don't have to be like, hey, let's go come back to my house tonight. Like, let's do blah, 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 blah. It's like, just actually be a normal human being. Go speak to somebody. And look, you might get rejected. And to be fair, you're going to probably, I know a lot of guys probably like, no, you can't ask girls out. They're going to reject you. They're going to do whatever. It's probably, the girls will do that. Some girls will do that.
But I will say from the girl perspective, not to interrupt you, so many girls, guys, if you are a man listening to this right now, please, for the love of all that is good, ask a girl out on a date in person if you think that she's pretty out in public. Like, just go tell her, you look beautiful today. Can I take you to dinner later?
Let me finish my thought. Because
women are craving this. They want it so bad.
She says that from the perspective of a girl. I'm going to speak to the perspective of the men. A lot of guys are just hearing that and going to be like, no, like, they're going to, you know, they're going to be like, ew, why would I do that? Like, put me on blast on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. She is right in the sense of, yes, like, girls ask them out in person.
They desperately want this, okay? Sorry.
This is why we get into arguments here.
Sorry.
Not in, like, again, be a normal human being. You don't have to be a creep. You don't have to just say whatever. Like, literally all you have to do is say, hey, I like your outfit. I see you're at the coffee shop. Do you want to come back here and get coffee tomorrow so we can, you know, talk? Do whatever. I don't even have to get your phone number. We can be here at 8 o'clock. Blah, 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 whatever it is. Be a normal human being. You also might get rejected. But I will say, if you get rejected by a girl that does put you on blast and does all that, that's on her. Be so secure in yourself that you're like, oh, okay, like, I'm moving on. That clearly, thank God that girl just rejected me, because you wouldn't want to be with her long term like that. Like, that is not the girl for you. If a girl rejects you in a very polite way, like, hey, I have a boyfriend, like, oh, sorry, like, I'm not looking for anything, that's fine. You say, oh, okay, great. Give them a compliment and walk away. And guess what? In an hour, that girl's going to tell her best friend about you and be like, dang, I should have said yes to that guy. Like, blah, 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 blah. But, like, you just have to be willing to, like, open yourself up a little bit. And, like, a rejection is not, like, a bad thing necessarily. Like, people could reject you. Rejection in a bad way is going to hurt them more than it hurts you, if that makes sense. Like, let that person deal with their issues. But you have to be looking in the right place, and you have to be, like, willing and able to, like, put yourself out there. Like, I think I asked you out in the airport. I did ask you out in the airport as we were going on different flights, different directions.
And we'd known each other for a few days before that, so it wasn't like a totally random meet cute. But men, if you want to prove yourself to a woman to be a godly man, it starts with taking the initiative to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and take the initiative to lead and ask her on a date out loud in person. Like, do it. It's not just do it. It's not that difficult. The worst thing she can say is no.
Well, not necessarily.
All right, fine. I have a lot of men who disagree with me about that. Okay, the worst thing that can happen is that you get rejected.
Well, no, it would be how you get rejected. The worst thing she can say is not no.
Okay.
But ultimately, that's where I'm saying, like, that sort of rejection is on her. Like, don't let that ruin your, like, be so secure in yourself that you're like, oh, like, that girl's clearly messed up in the head. Like, I wouldn't want that girl long term anyway. Let me move on. I'm going to go ask out an actually nice girl that, like, wants to do whatever. And you'll find them. There are plenty of nice girls out there. The reflection of the internet is not the world. Like, as people who work on the internet, that sounds counterintuitive to what we do. But if we can speak to anything, the culture of the internet and the culture of Instagram and social media is not the culture of everything.
Facts.
There are a lot of people out there that are on Instagram 1 hour once a week, like, that are not doing that. You just have to be able to look in the right places. There are plenty of girls out there that are nice and willing to, like, actually have a genuine relationship and, like, treat you as you should be treated. So, like, don't let the Instagram girls that are like, oh, like, there are bad girls out there, but there are also good girls out there. So you just have to be so secure in yourself and know what you're looking for. Like, honestly, I'm just thinking about myself. If I was in the dating pool right now, 3 years, like, post, like, yeah, you know, I haven't been looking for a date in 3+ years. But if I had, like, if I went up to a girl and she, like, rejected me, like, blatantly out loud in the bar, was like, ew, get away from me, like, look how fat you are, look how ugly you are, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever she said, I don't even think any of it would really bother me. I would kind of laugh, honestly, and chuckle. But, like, I'd be like, oh, well, like, clearly I wouldn't want to date that girl anyway. Like, thank God I just dodged a bullet.
Fair enough.
Like, thank you, Lord, for putting that in my way. Of, like, telling me that was not the go for me. I can handle that rejection. You know, I might go look in the mirror and be like, dang, I need to go to the gym. But, like, past that, you know, thank God I missed that train. So
anyway, we kind of got off track with all of this into just, like, general dating advice. But Julia, to bring it home for you, if you are single as a young woman and you feel like it's impossible and you just never will meet a godly significant other, know this: they do still exist. They are out there way more often than you realize. They are out there. You might be looking in the wrong places, but spend the time. I would advise not so much on proactively going out and looking for them, but preparing your soul and your heart to be ready for that type of relationship when God eventually does bring it into your life, because he ultimately is the author of all of our stories, and we have the opportunity to choose which path he lays before us. But I'll tell you, I knew Brock was the one for me, not because I went to go look for him, not because I expected to meet him anywhere, but because he came into my life in the most unexpected time possible. Never would have planned any of that to happen. And I had voluntarily, several months earlier than that, told God, like, I'm done. I'm done being in charge of my love life. I make really bad decisions. I always end up heartbroken. You can be in charge now, and I will just wait. I'll just be here. And I'm so grateful that that was the beginning of our story. All right, couple more questions from our chat.
What directions are your mic going, by the way? I think we're echoing into each other.
I think we are echoing a little bit. Sorry, we'll work on it. Randall wants to know, what is one thing to ask before you get married? Ask each other before you get married, from Instagram.
What's one thing?
One thing to make sure you ask one another. Hi, Chuck. He says, this is my wife.
Literally. Very nice.
Very nice. It's very nice.
One question. Oof. Obviously, faith has to be, like, a big question.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about that, though.
Kids, that's obviously a big question. I just think, like, general questions about, like, how you would parent are, like, important.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, how you would raise your kids. Like, what your political beliefs are, what your religious beliefs are, how would you handle this as a parent? How would you handle this? Like, blah, 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 blah. I think all that's really important, because I don't think, it's actually an interesting question. We might have talked about this on one stream we did in the past, but in today's society, do you think you could date someone you disagree with politically? Or, sorry, marry someone you disagree with politically?
It'd be very, very difficult. Successfully, like, without getting divorced?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You could. I don't think it would last very long.
I don't either. I don't think it would last very long.
But I think politics today is so much more than politics. Also, it's
agreed.
Your
There's so much that ties into it.
Yeah.
Yep. So
one question to ask each other. Oh, I'll turn this off. One question to ask each other before you get married.
Have you ever seen Shrek? And if she says no, she ain't the one.
You know what? I couldn't come up with a better answer than that. That's
if
pretty
she
good,
says
Brock.
no, she's not the one.
I love that so much. There was a great question from Tynes on Rumble. How has married life changed your view of the world?
I don't know. My worldview hasn't changed much in a month.
It's the biggest load of BS I've ever heard you say.
My worldview has changed this month?
I'm sorry. The literal world has changed this month. We got back from our honeymoon the day Donald Trump got shot in the head. Like, literally the whole world has turned upside down.
Let me
this
ask you
month.
a genuine question as someone who knows me better than anybody. What has happened in this last month that you genuinely believe has changed my worldview?
Well, getting married.
Sure. But I'm saying, no, they were saying, how, since getting married, has your worldview changed? And I'm asking you, since the day we got married, what about my worldview has changed? Absolutely nothing.
All right, maybe we're approaching this question very differently.
I guess in terms of like marriage, like my...
Yes, how has being married changed your view of the world? That's what he's asking.
I don't know if it has. I was pretty set in my worldview.
Interesting.
Yeah, like my worldview is pretty consistent as to what it was.
That's interesting.
Is yours not?
No.
I guess like my view towards you has changed.
Okay, how has that
and your
changed?
view towards me has changed, but I don't know if that has changed my worldview. Like I've always thought the same things.
Okay, that's fair.
Like none of that has changed my like thoughts on like religion or like about the world, about politics, about like home life. Nothing about that has changed.
Fair enough. I would say being married has definitely changed my outlook on the world. Like 1,000%. I find myself significantly more optimistic, and I was already an optimist to begin with, but I just feel like my priorities in life have very fundamentally changed, even within the last month. Like very fundamentally changed. And I'm not quite as bought into all of the manufactured outrage of the internet as much. Like I feel myself wanting to talk about more positive subjects and bring more positivity into the world than like constantly feed on the doom and gloom and negativity, which has been an interesting test of my experience as a content creator this month because everything has been negative, like literally everything in the news cycle. So trying to find how to make that balance has been a little bit interesting. But honestly, I just feel like all of my priorities are so much different. I love my job. I love my career. I love being a content creator. I'm not going to stop being a content creator. But I said this even before I got married. I said I hoped that I wouldn't feel like that was the most important part of my life anymore. And I don't. I don't feel like my job is the most important part of my life anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying, but I don't think that was ever I think that was your worldview before we got married.
That was the question.
I know.
How has it changed?
It hasn't changed. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, all right.
I don't know. I think we're answering that question two different ways.
I think we are too,
Yeah.
but that's okay. Sorry, Tynes. Neela wants to know, are you planning to stay in Florida? Are we planning to stay in Florida forever, Brocky?
For now, yeah.
For now, yes. Forever, probably not.
Well, how long's forever? Like when we're 90? No. Well, actually, when we're 90, we might come back.
Maybe. I really miss the mountains a lot. I am a mountain kid. Being married in the mountains and spending all of that time there really re-cemented that for me.
Florida's great.
Florida's great. We love it. It's a wonderful place. Eventually in our marriage, especially I think when we have little kids running around, I want them to have the same type of outdoorsy mountain childhood that I got to have growing up. It was pretty special.
Well, that's not anytime soon.
Yeah, so someday we'll deal with that. Northern Wanderer wants to know what our first dance song was.
It was Cover Me Up by Morgan Wallen.
Which was awesome. We had so much fun dancing to that. It was amazing. All right, last call for any questions. If you guys have any.
I saw somebody asking for both not vaccinated.
We are both for COVID, yes.
We are both, yes, not vaccinated.
Oh, classic. All right. Georgia, somebody told me that if something bothers you a bit about your other half, like the little things, after marriage, the same little things will bother you 10 times more. Do you think that's actually true? I would argue the opposite.
Oh, I got to read that question again.
Someone told me that if something bothers you a bit about your other half, the little things that bother you, after you get married, the same little things will bother you 10 times more. Do you think that's actually true?
I don't know if necessarily that like marriage is the point of that like makes it 10 times more. I probably would just say like the amount of time.
That's interesting.
Like Isabel gets really, really mad at me because I leave the sugar packets on the counter when I make coffee in the mornings. So like I put sugar in my coffee and I leave the packets on the counter.
Every day.
Really mad. And I think it makes her more annoyed over time. That would answer your question. Like, yes, the little things make... But I don't think it's necessarily like we got married and you were like, oh, this bothers me so much worse.
No, I actually think it bothers me less. I just make fun of you for it more.
Oh, that's a good...
But it bothers me less. Like, it's a stupid little thing. It's not worth getting mad about. Of all the things out there in the world.
When you date, little things will bother you more than when you get married. You don't care because you're like, whatever.
Whatever.
I think if there are things that bother you, it would just bother you by the amount of time you see it. Not necessarily like you're married and that changes your perspective of it. It's just more like the more you see it, the more annoying it is. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's fair. Red 4, last question. Oh, M-Rock wants to know if I'm feeding you because you look thinner. No, he just got a personal trainer. He's been working really hard. I promise I am feeding him. Red 4, for Brock, do you tell Isabel when you are going through it? Or do you keep that from her so that she doesn't worry about you being in mental anguish?
Is that for me to say or for I mean, I pretty much come home from the door and I'm like, babe, I'm fucking going through it.
He does not have a filter at all.
No, I tell Isabel because I think... Yeah, I tell Isabel when I'm going through it. Because I think I just, like, naturally, as a person, speak. Like, things, like, come... I don't, like, keep things to myself. Like, I just, like, say things out loud. Like, just get them out there. Like, if I'm dealing with something, I'm like, here it is. Like, even if I don't know how to deal with it, I'm just like, here it is. And then Isabel will, like, try and help me figure it out. But, like, I'm very... Like, I'll come in the door and be like, babe, somebody cut me off in traffic today. I'm about to blow my brains out. Like, something's going on. And she's like, it's not that big a deal. Like, let's go through it. Like, you know.
It's funny because we probably actually had that conversation before.
But
when Brock gets stressed out, he has a tendency to, like, lose track of what he was stressed out about. All of a sudden, it just becomes, like, you're stressed about 30,000 different things. And so I feel like I'm trying to help you bring it back down to earth more than anything.
I think I am a very emotional response person.
Yeah.
Which, like, you know, means, like, when something happens good, you react very happily and very good. When something happens very bad, you react very bad and you, like, heighten the very bad. And Isabel and I are both very loud. So we have a loud household. So when something's wrong, I think we're both very good about explaining something is wrong. I don't think both of us really keep it, like, internal. Like, hey, I'm
No, we're very open. And I think that's actually really helpful for us. We believe in very much over-communicating about everything.
Yeah,
everything.
Isabel over-communicates every day.
That's my job. I have to do that. But it's better. I mean, I would rather know if he was stressed out about something than feel like he was keeping something.
I actually think if I was keeping it a secret, that would probably be, like, bad.
Yeah.
I'd be like, something is, if, like, do I not trust Isabel or, like, why do I not want to tell her? I probably tell her too much. She's probably like, Brock, that's not that big of a deal. You didn't need to tell me that.
Hey, there you go. Like they say, better out than in, just like Shrek says. Amen.
That person gets it.
All right, you guys, we have loved answering these questions for you. I'm going to ask one more of Brock, and then we'll finish it out, just the two of us. And then I will give you some information on when the next stream is and everything after that. Brock, what has been your favorite part of being married so far? 1 month in.
Only a month in. I don't have much of a sample size to work with.
I know.
Like my
although it is crazy,
like
it's
my
already
favorite
been
part
a month.
of marriage or like our married life this month.
Either.
Our wedding and honeymoon was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people will tell you that and be like, "Oh, it was so fun." Like she said, I genuinely got sad leaving our wedding, even to go on our honeymoon, which we were going on a really freaking cool honeymoon.
You're welcome.
Like an amazing honeymoon. And I was really, really sad about leaving our wedding. It was like our wedding week and the whole build up and everything. Like I was having a great time just like being there, being around the commotion and like the hustle and bustle. It felt like a school, like we called it like May Day, Play Day, or something, like, you know, when you like field day, like when you go
field.
outside and like it's
May
like
Day
you
play.
look for it.
Who
You like
calls it May
I know,
Day
that's
Play Day?
elementary school,
Alabama, y'all. It's fine.
I don't know. It was like exciting and it was fun. There was always something going on, and it's also different. I mean, everybody would tell you this. It's also different when it's your wedding because everything is about you, which like it's the one time you get to do that. So it is kind of fun. And I genuinely tell everybody that would listen to this, soak it in. It does not last long. It is so fast, and like I still look back on that. I'm like, I tell her all the time, like, I wish we could just go back to our wedding week.
Yeah.
Like that was so much fun. Amelia's here.
Amelia, we already shouted out your maid of honor speech like 3 times during this
Isabel
live stream,
asked me the best part about the wedding, and the first thing that popped in my head was your speech.
Well done. Amelia's my sister. Yeah, our wedding, I think our wedding was everything we ever dreamed it would be and more. It was so much more fun than I ever expected it to be. It was literally the best day of my life. And I would relive it a million times over and over again. I think we've already been a little tested this month with everything of all of my unknown health issues and everything. And again, we'll share more when we know more. We don't really know enough yet. And so that's been kind of sad for me through our first month of marriage because I never expected my husband would have to deal with the in sickness and in health part, like literally 3 days after we got married, especially when I'm perfectly healthy otherwise. And so I think for me, my favorite part of being married, other than our wedding, has just been watching love look different. Like it's a selfless service of one another. And there's joy in that. There's so much joy in that, even if it's not, you know, the lovey-dovey romance part of things all the time. Real love looks like endless sacrifice for each other, and that's what we get to look forward to forever. And hopefully a lot more raps from my sisters, because now I will be expecting one for every milestone of my life, Amelia. So get on that, okay? Get on it. All right, guys, we love you so much. I've had so much fun hanging out with you guys for our live stream today. Again, the reason that we haven't been streaming every single day is I'm dealing with some major unknown, unexpected health issue. So I'm doing a lot of medical testing and have lots of doctor's appointments and stuff right now, but trying to get to the bottom of it very, very soon. We do have a lot of pre-recorded content still going up on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and everywhere else, as well as our short form content still going up daily on Instagram and TikTok. So you guys can stay tuned for all of that. But hoping to get back to lives almost every single day, if not very regularly, here very, very soon. We are going on kind of a second honeymoon to Scotland next week, which I'm super excited about, a week from tomorrow. So I will be recording some videos in Scotland as well and sharing those with you. But thank you so much for your continued prayers of all of the health things and for a beautiful start to our marriage. We are so ridiculously happy, and it has been the best adventure ever, getting to re-fall in love with my best friend all over again. And the last message I will leave you with is just this. Especially since we've gotten married, I've noticed this huge attack, newfound attack on marriage within the last month or so. A lot of it circulated around the ballerina farm controversy and all of that, but there is this overwhelming narrative in the United States today that marriage will destroy you, will ruin your life, that your whole identity, especially as a woman, is going to go away. You won't have any interests anymore. You can't have a career anymore. Your entire sense of who you are will dissipate overnight. That could not be more fundamentally opposite of how at least I have felt in this first month of marriage. I feel more like myself as Brock's wife than I have ever felt like myself in this incredibly exciting new adventure and vocation for the rest of my life. And I just want you to know, marriage is not this horrifying, patriarchal, terrible trap that you're going to feel suffocated by immediately in. It's just not even worth jumping off the ledge. It has been the most fun I have ever had with you, ever, in the last 30 days. And I hope that it continues to feel that way forever. They say if you marry the right person, the honeymoon phase never really ends, but it's awesome. So get married, because it's the best decision I ever made. Anything you want to add to that?
No, we're staunch defenders of marriage. So get married. Oh, that's the advice I should have given the person that asked about proposing. Do it.
It's fun.
Do it.
It's
get
so
married.
fun.
Marriage is awesome. Like who would be like, oh, marriage is lame. Like don't tie yourself down. Homie, tie yourself down. It's great. Tie yourself down to the right person. It's amazing. I literally get to like hang out with my best friend all day, and my dog. Like, what more could you ask for?
Life is good. Thanks be to God. We love you guys. Hopefully we'll be back live very, very soon. In the meantime, what you making for dinner? What am I making for dinner? Yeah, I thought
what did I cook last night?
He made me the best steak I've ever had, truly. And I don't say that just being nice. Like, it was the best steak I've ever had. So I don't know. What's on for the Olympics tonight? I feel like all the good... track started. We're going to go watch some track and field and have ourselves a lovely at-home date night. We love you guys. Thank you so, so much for watching, and have a spectacular weekend.